Glad you're joining us on Good Day in WA today. You know, Scotch can be smooth, smoky, full of character, but can also feel a little intimidating. So Bo Counts is here to break it all down because there's nothing like getting one of those peaty, smoky drinks and
Absolutely.
being like, well, I don't know.
So Scotch is one of those things that even myself, I wasn't a big Scotch drinker when I first went on my journey of bar education.
Right.
But Scotch is one of those things that in my training with the Edinburgh Whiskey Academy, you have to. You taste through the whole, like, am I drinking this to taste like yummy? Like Scotch becomes yummy. It's kind of like black coffee. You don't start with it as like a 12-year-old and go, yum. You know, you work your way up to those appreciations, and I think let's
start as a 12-year-old.
Yum with coffee, not Scotch.
Okay, all right, okay.
Jeez.
Thank you for that distinction.
Yes.
I was confused.
But you know, it's one of those things where you taste for memory, you taste for how it makes you feel, those notes that you pick up, and once you start to develop your palate on how to pick up those different sensory cues, you can really start to appreciate the kind of nuance of Scotch. And when you pick up a bottle, there is a lot to think about. You've got single malt, you've got blended Scotch, you've got single grain, you've got all this stuff, and then on top of that, you've got different areas. You've got Islay, you've got Speyside, you've got Lowlands, you've got Highlands, and you've even got Campbelltown, which nobody in the United States knows about Campbelltown.
When I was there, I learned so much because they had, you know, they're into their Scotch and they've got it everywhere, and all of those regions that you talked about. I was like, I just know it as Scotch, right? I know what I like, but they have it so many varieties.
And you can find a label when you pick up a Scotch. You know, like this is Ardbeg. I love my homies at Ardbeg. They always do really cool stuff. My favorite one's from the Ardbeg 10. The Wee Beastie is a 5-year, and I really like it too. But it'll say this is an Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. And what a single malt is when they use 100% malted barley, which is the grains, and then you know the peatiness that you get from that is how they make that malted barley. So you know they ferment that stuff, but then they smoke that barley with peat moss from the peat bogs in Scotland.
That's right.
And so depending on where you're at, those
it's going to taste different.
Yes, because those peat bogs are going to have different terroirs in the soil, and when they smoke that, you get that flavor imparted into that. And if you're blending, if you're doing a blended single malt or a blended Scotch, all of those factors come into play, and so you really get to taste the region and get to taste, you know, those areas. I remember when I was in class and I was tasting something, and they were like, "Well, what does it taste like to you?" And I go, "It kind of reminds me of my grandmother's barn with like this rotten hay."
The wood.
And I was like, I was embarrassed to say it, and he's like, "No, that's great. That's a good note." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Well, it's really about how does that make you feel? Where does it take you?" So let's taste a little Oban 14.
Okay, let's do
while
that.
we're on it. And
wow.
so if you remember,
it's from Oban, I guess, right?
Do you remember the last time I was here? What are these glasses called, Jason?
Yeah, you're gonna quiz me on this. I don't know. The only thing
a Glencairn.
A snifter.
It's a Glencairn. No, it's a different glass. So you know, you take your Glencairn. You nose it. This is Oban. It's a little milder. It's Oban 14, meaning it's been
Is this a
aged
single
for
malt
14.
or is it a blend?
So this is actually a single malt. So it's going to be a little bit more mellow. And give it a taste. I know you like Lafroig, which is very, very peaty.
It's very peaty.
But this is a lot more mild.
It is. I'm going to say easier to drink. I mean, it still hits you with that Scotch.
That Scotch peatiness.
Yeah.
And so all Scotch has to be aged for at least 3 years in oak barrels. And you know 90% of Scotch is now in ex-bourbon barrels?
Wow.
Yeah, 90%.
Interesting. So we drank a lot of cider over there that was aged in whiskey barrels, which is interesting, right?
Yes,
so,
and a lot of our barrels here in the United States go to Scotland and Ireland for secondary aging.
Yeah, secondary aging.
Secondary aging.
You're almost there. You and me both.
Yeah, we were in our secondary aging days.
That's right.